Get out of my way, Janitor. This is a hospital, not a homeless shelter. Dr. Marcus Webb's voice echoed through the pristine hallway of Chicago General. The man pushing the mop cart didn't look up, didn't argue, just quietly stepped aside, like he'd done 1,000 times before. Mid-60s, gray beard, simple blue uniform with maintenance stitched on the pocket. He looked like any other invisible worker in any other hospital. What Dr. Webb couldn't see beneath that faded uniform was a scar that ran from shoulder to elbow, the kind left by shrapnel in Fallujah. What he didn't know was that this janitor had once led a Navy SEAL team through the most dangerous missions in Iraq. His name was Chief Petty Officer Robert "Bobby" Torres, 20-year Navy veteran, 3 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts. The man who had saved more lives in combat than Dr. Webb had saved in surgery. And what Dr. Webb was about to discover would end his arrogance forever. Welcome to Stil Human, where the most powerful stories hide behind the simplest uniforms. If you believe that real heroes don't always wear scrubs or carry stethoscopes, hit subscribe. These stories of hidden strength need witnesses. Before we continue Bobby's story, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from today? And have you ever met someone whose quiet service hid an extraordinary past? Now let's see what happens when medical arrogance meets military valor. Chicago General Hospital stood as one of the premier medical facilities in the Midwest. 34 floors of cutting-edge medicine, where life and death decisions were made every hour. The doctors who walked these halls carried themselves with the confidence that comes from years of training and the weight of holding human lives in their hands. Dr. Marcus Webb was among the most arrogant of them all. At 42, he was the youngest department head in the hospital's history, chief of cardiothoracic surgery with a reputation for brilliance, matched only by his contempt for anyone he deemed beneath his status. Nurses, orderlies, and especially maintenance staff were invisible to him, obstacles to be moved, not people to be acknowledged. The night shift at Chicago General ran differently than the day. Quieter corridors, skeleton crews, and the steady presence of those who kept the hospital running while the city slept. Among them was Bobby Torres, a man who had been pushing a mop cart through these same halls for 6 years. Bobby was 64, with graying hair and a beard that had gone completely white. He moved with a slight limp, his left leg bearing the permanent reminder of an IED explosion outside Ramadi in 2004. The maintenance uniform hung loose on his frame, and he kept his head down, speaking only when spoken to, which wasn't often. To the medical staff, Bobby was furniture, a fixture as permanent and unremarkable as the floor tiles he cleaned. They walked past him without seeing him, talked around him as if he weren't there. And when they did notice him, it was usually with annoyance. But Bobby had chosen this invisibility. The confrontation that would change everything began on a Tuesday night in November. Dr. Webb was making his evening rounds, checking on post-operative patients, when he encountered Bobby's cart blocking access to room 314. "Excuse me," Dr. Webb said sharply, not bothering to look at Bobby's face. "You're blocking the hallway." Bobby immediately began moving the cart. "Sorry, doctor, just finishing up here." "Well, finish faster," Webb snapped. "Some of us have actual important work to do." Dr. Sarah Chen, a resident who had been following Webb on rounds, shifted uncomfortably. She'd always been polite to Bobby, occasionally exchanging small talk about the weather or weekend plans. There was something about the older man that commanded respect, a quiet dignity that seemed at odds with his position. "Dr. Webb," she said quietly, "maybe we could—" "Dr. Chen, when you're department head, you can set policy about maintenance schedules. Until then, observe and learn." Bobby had finished moving his cart and was preparing to continue down the hall when Webb's voice stopped him. And another thing, Webb called after him. Your work area smells like... What is that? Some kind of military surplus cologne. This is a hospital. We maintain certain standards of cleanliness and professionalism. The comment hit differently than the usual dismissiveness. Bobby paused, his hand tightening slightly on the mop handle. For the first time, he looked directly at Dr. Webb. "I'll be more careful about that, sir," Bobby said quietly. "See that you do. We can't have our patients thinking they're in some kind of veterans' shelter." Word of the encounter spread quickly through the hospital's night shift gossip network. Some felt Webb had crossed a line. Others saw it as typical behavior from a doctor known for his harsh treatment of support staff. Maria Santos, the head night nurse, had worked at Chicago General for 15 years. She'd seen Bobby arrive 6 years ago, quiet and reliable, asking for nothing more than steady work. Unlike the younger maintenance staff, who complained about everything, Bobby never questioned overtime, never called in sick, and never caused problems. Dr. Webb was out of line, she told Dr. Chen during a break. "Bobby's one of the best workers we have, always here early, stays late if needed. Never heard him complain about anything." "Do you know anything about his background?" Dr. Chen asked. Maria shrugged. "Not much. He keeps to himself. Someone mentioned he was military, but half the guys in maintenance are veterans. It's about the only place that'll hire them without a college degree." What Maria didn't know was that Bobby Torres hadn't needed this job for financial. His military pension and disability benefits provided adequate income. He'd taken the position at Chicago General for reasons that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with purpose. 3 days after the hallway incident, Dr. Webb's arrogance reached new heights. During the weekly staff meeting, department heads were discussing budget cuts, and maintenance was on the chopping block. "We're overstaffed in custodial services," Webb announced to the room, "particularly on night shift. There's an older gentleman, I don't even know his name, who moves slower than hospital efficiency requires. We could easily eliminate that position." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the chief of staff, frowned. "Marcus, these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are people's livelihoods. Elena, this is a business. We can't carry dead weight because of misplaced sentimentality. This isn't a charity for aging janitors." Bobby's supervisor, Tom Bradley, had been standing outside the conference room, waiting to deliver maintenance reports. He heard every word. The revelation began not with a grand gesture, but with a medical emergency. Code Blue, room 318. Cardiac arrest. Dr. Webb and his team rushed toward the elevator, but found their path blocked by maintenance equipment. Bobby was cleaning the area, unaware of the emergency developing behind him. "Move!" Webb shouted, pushing past Bobby so roughly that the older man stumbled, catching himself against the wall. As Bobby steadied himself, his uniform sleeve rode up, revealing not just the shrapnel scar, but something else that made Dr. Chen stop in her tracks. A tattoo, faded but unmistakable, the Navy SEAL trident, surrounded by names and dates. The code blue was resolved successfully, but Dr. Chen couldn't stop thinking about what she'd seen. During her break, she found Bobby in the supply closet, restocking his cart. "Bobby," she said quietly, "can I ask you something?" He looked up, surprised. Few doctors ever sought him out for conversation. "That tattoo on your arm, were you a Navy SEAL?" Bobby's hands paused in their work. For a long moment he didn't answer, then quietly, "A long time ago." "How long did you serve?" 20 years, retired as Chief Petty Officer." Dr. Chen felt her understanding of this man completely shift. "What teams?" "Started with Team 2, finished with Team 6. Even with her limited military knowledge, Dr. Chen understood the significance. Team 6 was elite among the elite. "Bobby, why are you working here? I mean, with your background." Bobby returned to his work. "After my son was killed in Afghanistan, I needed to be around people who save lives instead of take them. This seemed like a good place to do that. The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Webb's voice in the hallway. "Dr. Chen, where are you? We have rounds to complete." She looked at Bobby, seeing him clearly for the first time. "Dr. Webb doesn't know, does he?" Bobby shook his head. "No reason he should. Maybe there is." Dr. Chen wrestled with what she'd learned for 2 days. Bobby had asked her not to say anything, and she respected his privacy. But watching Dr. Webb continue to demean a man who had served his country with distinction became increasingly difficult. The breaking point came during another staff meeting, when Webb renewed his campaign to eliminate Bobby's position. "The maintenance situation has become a distraction," Webb announced. "I'm recommending immediate termination of the night custodial worker. We can redistribute his duties among day shift staff." "Marcus," Dr. Rodriguez interjected, "you can't just fire someone without cause." "I have cause. Inefficiency. Yesterday he was blocking emergency access during a code blue. His presence actively interfered with medical care." Dr. Chen knew she had to speak up. "Dr. Webb, I think you should know something about Bobby Torres before you make that decision." Webb looked annoyed. What could possibly be relevant about a janitor's background? "He's a 20-year Navy veteran, a SEAL." The room fell silent. Webb's expression shifted from annoyance to suspicion. "That's impossible. SEALs don't become janitors." Dr. Chen pulled out her phone, where she discreetly researched Bobby's service record, the portions that weren't classified. "Chief Petty Officer Robert Torres, Navy Cross recipient, 3 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts. He led SEAL Team 6 operations in Iraq and Afghanistan." The room remained silent as the information sank in. Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. "Dr. Chen, are you certain about this?" "I am, and there's more. He lost his son in Afghanistan. That's why he works here. He wanted to be around people who save lives." Webb's face had gone pale. The Navy Cross was the second highest military decoration, awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat. Dr. Rodriguez stood up. "I think we need to have Mr. Torres join us." When Bobby entered the conference room, still wearing his maintenance uniform, and carrying the quiet dignity that had always marked him, the atmosphere was completely different from any meeting he'd ever witnessed at the hospital. Dr. Rodriguez spoke first. "Mr. Torres, please sit down. We've just learned about your military service, and I want to personally thank you for what you've done for our country." Bobby sat uncomfortably, glancing around the room. "Ma'am, I just came to work. I don't need any special treatment." Dr. Webb, who had been silent since the revelation, finally spoke. "Chief Torres, I owe you an apology. My behavior toward you has been unconscionable." Bobby looked at him directly for the first time. "Doctor, you don't owe me anything. You didn't know." "That's exactly the point," Webb said, his voice carrying none of its usual arrogance. "I should have known. I should have seen." "I want everyone here to understand something. Mr. Torres chose to work at this hospital. He didn't need this job financially. He chose to serve here, just as he served his country." She turned to Bobby. "Would you be willing to tell us about your service?" Bobby was quiet for a long moment. "I don't usually talk about it, but if it helps people understand something, I served because I believed in protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. When I came home, when I lost my son, I needed to find another way to serve. This hospital saves lives every day. I wanted to be part of that, even in a small way." Dr. Webb spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. "Chief Torres, I've been practicing medicine for 15 years. I thought I understood what service meant. I was wrong." The meeting ended with a unanimous decision. Bobby would not only keep his job, but would be offered a position in hospital administration recognizing his leadership experience and dedication to service. Bobby declined the promotion. "I appreciate the offer, but I like what I do. I like the quiet. I like being useful without being the center of attention." Dr. Webb asked to speak with Bobby privately after the meeting. "Chief Torres, I need you to know that what I said about veterans, about this being like a veterans shelter, that was wrong on every level." Bobby nodded. "Doctor, you're not the first person to not see what's right in front of them. Won't be the last. How do you do it? How do you let people treat you that way without saying anything?" Bobby considered the question. "In the SEALs, we learned that real strength isn't about proving you're tough. It's about doing what needs to be done, whether anyone sees it or not. I don't need people to know what I did 20 years ago. I need to know that what I'm doing today matters." Dr. Webb extended his hand. "It does matter. You matter. And I'm going to make sure everyone in this hospital knows it." Bobby shook his hand. "Just treat people with respect, Doctor. All people. That's enough." 6 months later, Chicago General implemented new policies regarding staff treatment and respect. Dr. Webb, now the hospital's chief of staff after Dr. Rodriguez's retirement, instituted mandatory sensitivity training and established a zero-tolerance policy for disrespecting any hospital employee. Bobby continued working night shift maintenance, but the dynamics had changed completely. Doctors and nurses who had never acknowledged him before now made a point of greeting him by name. Medical students were told his story during orientation, learning that heroism comes in many forms. Dr. Chen, now a chief resident, often found herself stopping to talk with Bobby during quiet moments. He had become an unofficial mentor to younger staff, sharing wisdom gained not from medical textbooks, but from leading men in combat and learning to serve others. "Bobby," she asked one night, "do you ever regret not taking that promotion?" He smiled, continuing to mop the floor with the same careful attention he'd always shown. "Dr. Chen, I've learned that the most important work usually doesn't come with a title. It just comes with the chance to make things a little better for the people around you. Real heroes don't always wear uniforms with insignia. Sometimes they wear maintenance badges. Sometimes they push mop carts and empty trash bins and keep the world clean and safe while others sleep." Chief Petty Officer Bobby Torres served his country for 20 years in the most elite military unit in the world. When he came home, he continued serving in the most humble way possible, by keeping a hospital clean so that others could save lives. Dr. Webb learned that respect isn't something you earn through position or education. It's something you give to others because they're human beings with stories you don't know and sacrifices you can't imagine. In hospitals across America, in offices and schools and shops, there are quiet heroes whose past service is invisible to those around them. They chose jobs not for glory, but for purpose, not for recognition, but for the chance to continue serving in whatever way they can. The next time you see someone in a simple uniform doing humble work, remember Bobby Torres. Remember that you never know who might be standing in front of you. You never know what battles they've fought, what courage they've shown, or what losses they've endured. Have you ever discovered that someone you overlooked had an extraordinary story? Share that moment in the comments below. At Stil Human, we believe that every person carries worth that goes far beyond what we can see. Subscribe for more stories that remind us to look deeper, to see the heroism in humble service, and to treat every person with the dignity they deserve. Because sometimes the most decorated warrior in the room is the one nobody notices at all. And Dr. Webb learned that the measure of a person isn't found in their position or their paycheck, but in their character and their willingness to serve others. whether in the mountains of Afghanistan or the hallways of a Chicago hospital.